Hello, my name is TJMucci, and I'd like to explain to you the circuitry for my multi-field generator. The circuitry is contained in this housing in here, and uses many ICs, integrated circuits, and motors and LEDs to indicate what's happening at what times. Now, this is really complicated in here and hard to follow along. So over here, I have a schematic for the circuitry all laid out. The circuitry uses a combination of AOI logic and synchronous and asynchronous circuitry design. A clock signal is generated by a 555 timer over here, which is then used to run a clock bit counter to indicate when to turn on a motor, and that is what runs that is this series of AOI logic down here, which simply indicates when there is solar activity or wind activity. And if there is both of those, then what it does is it allows the counter to start counting down. This is in case that there is a sudden dip in the wind, so that if there is just a sudden dip in the wind and it turns that on, it doesn't instantly start up the secondary part of the circuitry. There is also some other parts of this implemented in, such as this part of the circuitry being on, and parts to turn on a fan, which I will get to in a minute. So, after there is no solar or wind activity, and that the fuel generator, the combustion generator, is not active, that sends a signal to this motor, to this clock signal here, to allow this to start counting down. After that count reaches the end, it turns on this motor, which just activates another part of the circuit with a 555 timer and D flip-flops along here. Now this is where the majority of the turning on of the steam engine happens. It starts here when all these are 0 at the start of the count. When all these are 0, it activates a spark, which ignites the source. Then, after a pre-programmed amount of time, it then activates another motor system, which gives the combustion engine that little jump start after it is heated up enough for steam to be produced. Then, because I do not want this count and everything to keep going through the spark and the motor turn, at the very end of the count, it sends another signal back to turn off that secondary part of the circuitry. Now, say the motor didn't turn on and start running right, there's no worry about that, because as soon as that happens, this will start counting again and then turn back on to give it another try. Now, if the combustion, over here again, we have a little bit more of the same AOI logic. Now, when it comes time for it to be sunny in the morning again and your solar panels can start absorbing enough sunlight to generate electricity, another part of the circuitry in here will indicate that there is both the steam engine and the solar panels active, and then we'll activate a fan, which is attached to this area right here, to blow out that flame that is creating the heat to run the steam engine. Now, since that there is solar, no wind, and no combustion, this is now left alone, and the count and this count cannot start until it becomes nighttime. The solar goes away, and then the whole system starts back over again.